Hello my quilty friends, it's Stacy of Stacy Creates Stuff, and today's tutorial is on Tilda's Berry Wreath Quilt. If you are new to my channel, I am Stacy, fiber artist. I love to quilt, knit, embroider, cross stitch. Yes, if it has to do with fabric or fiber, I probably have done it or are doing it. So, today's tutorial is the beautiful Berry Wreath Quilt by Tilda Fabrics. The pattern is free off of Tilda's website, and I will put a link in the description below, as well as a link to purchasing a kit from my favorite quilt shop, Vintage Pink and Green. While this quilt is not super fast to put together, it just is about organizing and cutting all of your pieces, getting them organized, and then methodically sewing through all the different parts. There are berries, there are leaves. Well, that's pretty much it. And you sew those together and you get those beautiful wreaths. All of the wreaths are the same, so you don't have to worry about trying to figure out which fabric goes where. From the prints, we have three different configurations. We have the small blue squares that get paired with the very tiny background squares. These create the little blue berries, not blueberries, just blue berries. And you're going to sew a square on each of the corners, and you sew that on the diagonal. So here is one that is partially done. I tend to do them the opposite corners. It doesn't matter which two corners. And then I can press these back out of the way and then go ahead and sew on the other corners. In the end, you get your little blue berry. Now, it's very square, but once seam allowances go in, it kind of rounds out the berry. For these, I don't trim the excess fabric. You certainly can, but for the blueberries, I do not. Then we have the red berries. This is a larger square, and it uses these, we'll call them the medium size squares. So we had the very tiny ones for the blueberry. And just like the blueberries, they also get placed on each corner and sewn in the diagonal. And once you have those sewn in, it will look like this. So for this, I don't necessarily do opposites. It doesn't really matter. All four corners are going to get a square, and then these all get pressed. I do go ahead and trim the excess. And then the last square are the green ones, and these are for the leaves. Now these only get two squares, and these are the larger of the three squares. And these go in the corner. Now on the prints that are directional, these typically are the ones with the animals. If you place the square in the lower right corner and the upper left corner, then that is the direction that all the leaves are going to be facing that use these little critter prints. There are, of course, other fabrics that really are not directional, and it doesn't matter which two corners that you do, because they may be placed this way, they may be placed that way, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, technically, this one could kind of be directional, but it's really not going to make any difference. So that is my tip for that. You're going to sew so many of these little units together, and then you'll be putting them into different sections. For the center part of the block, I have laid out the small berries in each of the corners. These two are the same fabric as are these two. And then I have the long narrow strips and then the squares. So this is essentially a 9 patch. These three will go together as a row, these three, and then these bottom three, and then all three rows go together to form that central block. And here we have the finished full center blocks. Here are the pieces that we need for 2 of the corners of the wreath blocks. So it's a berry and a square, a rectangle that'll be matched with those, and a leaf, and then a larger rectangle. So the first order of business will be to sew the berry to the square. That will end up looking like this. Then we will sew that unit to the small rectangle. That looks like that. Then we'll take this unit and sew it to the leaf. That gives us this half of the block. And then finally, we will take this whole unit and sew it to the larger rectangle, and you get a corner block. These are the pieces that we need for section 2, and that is the top part of the wreath, and actually if you spin it around, it's the bottom part of the wreath. However, you want to take note that some of these fabrics are directional. So if it concerns you that your little bird may end up upside down, then you're going to want to make sure that you position the pieces how you want them to be. So I'm not overly concerned, although I am trying to make things mostly end up right side up, and therefore I will do just the number of top sections of section 2, and then I will turn my board around, rotate any pieces that need rotating in order to be correctly directional, and continue on from there for the bottom half of the wreaths. So these simply go together in a row, and that will make this piece. These 3 will go together to make this row, and then you will take these 2 and sew them together, and you get section 2 for the top and bottom of each wreath. Now that we have the different sections, we're ready to lay out the block. So we have corner sections, and you just need to check the instructions to double check that you're putting things in the right orientation. We have our side sections. And our top and bottom. And then, of course, we have the center sections. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew this as if it's a very large 9 patch. Top row, middle row, bottom row, and then sew those rows together to finish the block. I really enjoyed making this quilt, and I hope that you will give it a chance as well. It features the Hibernation collection from Tilda Fabrics, and it is just beautiful. So I hope you will give it a try, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye!